So, hello. I've probably got too much light coming in around me, but I'm gonna jump on here and have a chat because it's been a while. I've also got raisins in my teeth. Um, so I thought I'd jump on. And I had an onus, an idea of what to speak about, but I'm gonna leave it over to complete channeling because I feel like it's important. I'm going through a bit of a phase of trying to bring more honest and aligned stuff through. And with that, I bring the essence of what I've named this about trailblazers, truthers, and twin rays or twin flames, depending what you want to call it. And so let's start with the trailblazers. Now, being a trailblazer means that you don't tend to fit into places and spaces and groups. You have new ideas and new ways of being and bringing things forward. And that is something I've been dancing with for quite a long while. Every time I feel quite isolated, I go into different groups and I'm like, why is no one speaking about this? Why is no one addressing this? And I'm always brought back to the idea that I'm a trailblazer. I'm not meant to fit in, I'm meant to stand out. I'm just going to show you this that's on my desk. I've had this for years. Why fit in when you're born to stand out? And I think that there are quite a few of us that are like that. Certainly, if you're spiritual, sometimes you can feel like you've been in a spiritual closet, locked away, and you've like come out and don't know where you can speak your truth to. Certainly, if you're a truther and you're exposing stuff about distorted agendas, you've probably been turfed out of quite a few groups as well. And yeah, this is the reality of the calling out of this fallen paradigm that we're in, that oftentimes, and I'm gonna call this one, when you're the one bringing through information or truth or knowledge that doesn't fit well with people's current paradigm, it's sometimes easier to get rid of the messenger than receive the message. And that's quite a big sense of what I feel is injustice, but often because what happens is you can trigger people's traumas, or it can be like, I don't want to face that shadow, I don't want to hear about that, I want a nice, easy, comfortable, happy life. And so, yeah, often it's easier to get rid of the person than it is to receive the lesson, the learning, the truth. And I've experienced this many times in my life. I actually tap it into the witch wound as well, and the witch wound being that those wisdom keepers that were cast out of society, and deeper into that wound, that they were the ones that were bringing forward a knowledge. What I remember about sort of past lives and spiritual persecution, of which I've had many, is that I was often bringing forward information that went against either the laws of the time. Heretics were all cast out for the same thing. They believed in a certain religion that wasn't the done religion at the time. Or I was bringing in information about spirit, channeling spirits, and for many that were killed off as witches, it would be, you're channeling the devil, when that's not true, because you get to a certain level of mastery as a healer and a spiritual person where you can witness what devils and demons are, and you can witness what angelics and pure source consciousness is. And that's the point in going on this journey, being able to recognize the difference, but understanding both sides of that paradigm, because we have to, because that's the times we're in. Because if we don't understand that both the light and the dark, then we can get hoodwinked all over again. And to me, this is the ultimate sacrificial energy. Through innocence, through naivety, and even higher heart consciousness, like through the eyes of love, like a child has, you're open to vulnerability and attack and distortions. And so I want to speak into that a little bit as well, because I believe that we are in the time of the divine child. And you can see this a couple of ways. So many people know the story of Jesus or Yeshua, depending on what name you want to call that, put up on the cross, and that is a sign of, religion might say, he's been sacrificed for your sins. I don't believe that. I believe that's a program, that actually that's a sign of butchering someone and putting them on the cross, of sacrifice itself, sacrificing a Christed being. Whatever happened there, whether it's truth, myth, storytelling, or actually happened, all up for debate. And I'm not here to answer that. I'm only here to answer that level of what's been perpetuated throughout history about sacrificing the sun. The sun is the ray, the consciousness, the ray. And I'll get on to twin rays consciousness in a moment. So we have that happening, and alongside we also have that we are in the time of the child, which Aleister Crowley called the time of Horus. And Horus was the child of Osiris and Isis in the Egyptian pantheon for the gods and goddesses. But it was also a child that was sacrificed by Seth, who was the distorted energy, and he cut his eye out. And so once again, this is perpetuating an idea of sacrifice. Now, my biggest question has to be, why does anyone need to be sacrificed? What is that doing to humanity, keeping that sacrificial energy alive, keeping that method of storytelling alive, and not calling that out, that no one should be sacrificed, no child at all. And we are in a time of having to face what has been sacrificed and by who. Yeah, big energy. And this tends to be under the element of truthers, because many truthers will call out things that are uncomfortable and make you feel like, oh, I don't really want to face that shadow. I don't want to hear about that. But I actually think it's really important that we find for ourselves what our truth is and be shifting into that every day. Because to be this divine child energy means holding a hand and having one foot into this gorgeous unconditional love, light. I call it blue fairy magic, because when I was a child I performed the blue fairy in Pinocchio, and it was my first experience of finding magic on a stage when I was performing. And I, as a 5D theatre maker, I'm about creating magic on the stage again. But that magic was light and beautiful and so serene and tender and gorgeous. And now, as I really understand the divine and distorted magic now, magical awareness that I'm trying to bring in is a much higher consciousness. Because here's some way to put it simplistically. When I first trained as an energy healer, I had a lot of self-doubt and negative thinking, which is something I'm writing about in my second play currently, which is why I'm having to go quite deep into a lot of shadow work and pull out anything that's not aligned with my truth. And, we've all been programmed to believe we're not this divine special being when we are. And what happened was, my head, when I was going through energetic practices, I would start to manifest more of what I was thinking, more of my fears, more of my worries, because I was becoming a magical practitioner. I was becoming energetically aligned. So I was becoming energetically aligned with whatever I was giving out, whichever thought was in my head. So it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I was manifesting even worse, my own self-doubt and my own negative bias. So that's an important thing to know when you're doing any energy work, that if there's anything lying there in the shadows, it will come stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and manifest more frequently and much more horrifically, let's say. So the best way to align and face that is facing that, looking at your own shadow, doing shadow work, really understanding the depth of human trauma, sacrifice, suffering that we've had to been through as a whole human nation, as a whole human earth. And that energy is in our earth, it's in our bodies, it's in our soul's consciousness. And to get into this higher state, this higher place that we all want to go to, we're gonna have to shovel all the gunk up and clear it out and keep looking at it. And that might be looking at your own stuff, but a lot of us have come in to do some big, heavy lifting karmic work, which means to look at the whole shadow in society and to start clearing that out. And so if that's you, well done. It isn't fun. I'm a poet and I don't know it. So that was my dad speaking. He always used to say that. But it is totally possible. And it's probable. And it's why your soul gave you this purpose, to come in and do the heavy lifting and to do the decluttering and the clearing and shining a light on the truth in society. And that can be done through many ways, by speaking out, keep speaking your truth, keep speaking your truth. There is these groups, so in a shamanic circle, you'll have say a group of 10 people that will come together, and everybody in that circle will have their place and their moment and their job to reenact. And some people's will be to hold the space in calm, and other people might be to be triggering the shadow in people. And then other people might be to, lead the space and bring knowledge forward, the sacred word. We all have something. And then there's somebody in that circle that's going to say the thing, the unsaid, speak the unspeakable, create the awakening that way. Now, I've had that role for a long time, and I've known that when I go into groups, I'm like, is anyone going to speak about this? There always feels like there's this big elephant in the room that I often need to name. And I've often questioned it and gone, but it'd be easier to stay quiet. But that's not my place in life. That's not my place. And my soul's like, well, you're kind of coming in to do that work. And so if that resonates with you, then you're going to need to speak your truth. Because it's important. Because staying silent and complicit hasn't got us anywhere in this society. It's led us to being dominated and done in, and had this system of power over the people, when the people have the power. People in community, people coming together in one group or way of being. Now we don't need to think the same. We don't need to have the same beliefs. We don't need to have the same ideas, but the essence of coming together is the important part, and listening to other people's different viewpoints and different understandings. And that's very much what I'm trying to enter into myself, ways of really listening to different things, to different ways. But most of all, and I think that this is quite an important one, it's about really doing the feeling work to do the healing work. Now, I know a lot of healers and people would say about resting in the still point, this balance within yourself, this calm space. And yes, I really agree that finding a peace, finding a still point, finding your center is important. But then there's this other energy, which is that if we keep ourselves too contained, we don't take action. Because in this space, everything's okay. Actually, let's not disrupt my life. Let's not cause any chaos energy. But if we keep ourselves in the midpoint for too long, then it doesn't cause a reaction, a forward momentum, I must, I have to. But then if we stay in this chaotic energy too long, we lose the peace and the balance. And so I see it like a bit of a yo-yo of energy, going up into the places that make you angry and make you want to bring change and revolution and protest energy. And then going down into the depths of sadness and grief and despair and feeling it to heal it, so that we're not numbing out, we're not self-medicating, we're not comfort eating, we're feeling all this and letting it release. And then going up again into joy and pleasure and ecstasy, and like this yo-yo state, being able to feel all of them in their extremities rather than being in this box. Because that box is like a medicating of the self. It's pushing down the extremes and the emotions. And if you can feel all those and go into those different states and then come back again into the still point, into the balance, into the peace, that is mastery. That is what a meditation's for. That's what energy work for. That's what healing's for. That's for staying still enough and listening to the wealth of the shadow and the chaos and the joy and the desire inside of you is, and then returning back to the still point. And so I want to speak into that when it comes to twin rays. Now, twin rays to me is an extension of the twin flame mentality. Now, to put it into a nutshell, twin flames are so-called soulmates that come together. Sometimes they're lovers, other times they're friends or family members, and they've got a massive soul mission, and they can cause each other heartache and wounds, or they can come into balance, an amazing union and partnership. That's just it in a nutshell. It doesn't often need the label. Now, I believe massively we have soul tribes. We are souls. So, of course, we've got soulmates. Of course, we've got beloved energy. But the twin ray consciousness that I'm speaking of is about being your highest divine spark of flame. And in that state, matching with another. I'm trying to put those on even scales there. Cosmic justice there. And being in that beautiful higher state of consciousness and then matching with a beloved. Now, I do see these as sort of a masculine and feminine energetic principle coming together into union, because we are those energetic principles, and where there's a yin and a yang, they are going to attract each other. But this is a tricky one, because we're often needing to look at some real heavy lifting work within ourselves at how we not be in that divine spark. Because if we're not that huge high divine spark, how can we call in that kind of energy? And so this does take quite a bit of faith, perseverance, and trust in the divine timing of it all. And to top all that off, it feels like it's also worth knowing that the boundaries are really important. So for most feminine spiritual folk, we can tap into energies, souls, entities, thought forms. You know, we can master quite a lot of these worlds. But when it comes to, you know, feeling into the frequency of, I'll use me as an example of a divine masculine, a divine essence of God, all of this can be harder work because of our programming, because of how we are, and also being supported by that energy. I see that a lot in healing work, and even in some of my own throughout the days, that it's been more easier to tap into the goddess archetypes or the feminine energy and use that spirit as guidance than tapping into a divine masculine instead to feel that balance. But actually, for me, I've often felt like I'm in my purest essence when I'm stepping more into my feminine energy, my intuition, my channeling. I'm just at a higher power, more of my divine spark when I'm in that state. That's not to say I don't need to do the divine masculine work, i.e. the structure, the action and all of that. But if I flip into my feminine flow much more, that's usually when I'm at my most powerful essence. And so if I'm not flipping into that regularly, I can't pull in this divine masculine support. I can't receive as easily because I am this feminine receptive energy naturally. So I'm going against my natural state. So that's kind of what I wanted to bring in about all of those consciousness. It just felt like something I needed to speak into today, to just bring in what's alive in me at the moment. And with all that being said, I will be doing a couple of things. So for most people that know me, I feel very passionately about magic, exposing what is fallen magic and igniting light magic, pure magic in people, to get people to understand that they are magicians, they are mediums, they are divine, and what they're capable of is huge. We can see through the realms. We are supernatural beings naturally. I like that. And igniting all of that, I think, is so important. And to call out the truth and the drop consciousness has always been something very important to me. When I started to work more heavily as a medium, I would see a lot of trapped souls, spirits come to me with a sense of injustice for what's happened to them. Just because somebody's passed on doesn't mean that they haven't still got a sense of what's happened to them on earth, and they can hold that, and they want their stories to be told. Quite frankly, that's the easiest way of putting it. And so a lot of my work is writing those stories and bringing those stories forward for people in my healing work. So that's something I'm going to step into a little bit more about magical consciousness and bringing more stories forward that need to be told. And I will be doing a couple of things. So I've got a talk coming up in a couple of weeks, if you fancy a bit of a live event, for Uprise and Shine conference down in Hastings in England, and I'm very much looking forward to that weekend where everybody's going to share their own sense of truth, awareness, and helping us all uprise and shine together as a community of truth. Community of truth, I'm going to call it. And then I will be following that up with a workshop by the same name as the talk, placing magic back in the hands of healers, not harmers, which is something I feel very passionate about, that we're aware of what's happened throughout the magical history that fed into a lot of the witch persecution, which is something that I've researched and channeled and had a lot of soul awareness, certainly from writing my own play about my own witch persecution and what really happened, and how that distorted quite a few supernatural gifts that people had, and how it harmed mediums and the craft of the healer very much so, and who was really at fault for all of that. Because for true justice to occur, for the horrific amount of people that died under the witchcraft laws and acts, we're going to have to really look at the whole of magic and the different laws different people were following and the impact that that had. So that's something I'm going to be speaking about at Uprise and Shine in the beginning of May, the first weekend. And there will be a workshop to follow that up and go a bit deeper into deeper magical practices, deeper healing, regressions, remote viewing, which I've been doing a lot of over the last year through witch workshops. And I believe that remote viewing and psychic viewing is the best way to get your own knowledge. And that's kind of what I want to leave you with, that your soul's knowledge, your wisdom that you find through going through meditation, through channeling, through going within, listening to your body always knows the truth. It tingles, it reacts, it does different things when you hear truth, is the most important thing to recognize and to go with and to speak about and to own, because I believe that we're in the time of truth, and that means that we need to align with our integrity and our honesty, do the deep work and come out shining, because humanity is worth fighting for. And that fight doesn't look like, come on, let's take to the battlefields. It looks like, come on, let's go past all of our inhibitions and our blocks and find our inner courage to speak our truth, to walk our truth, to live our soul's purpose. Because once we're all aligned, that is like us taking the spiritual battlefield. Everyone's in their rightful job, their rightful place on earth, and being a protector of the people, most importantly. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all I needed to say to keep my soul happy. So take care of yourself, and yeah, I hope this has ignited a spark of truth, a seed of truth in you.